What are my guidelines time-wise? What are my guidelines time-wise?
What time do you leave?
Okay.
Usually, guys, we have our guest speaker for today is Rav Mann from the Eretz Hemda Institute, which is a call of Dayanis, and being that we're running some hedging this year, happens to be the perfect time to hear something from the Kolo. You might have read a lot of stuff. I'm not sure how much guys read that OU Torah tidbit on Shabbos when you get it. But the man writes pretty much every week. I'll ask a question, and well, pretty much I'll question, he writes an answer. So you'll hear him throughout the year. More of the things he writes every Shabbos. With all that.
Okay. What we're going to, let me just tell you what we're going to be doing. We're going to do it a couple parts presentation. I want to speak a little bit about Beis Din in general, because I spend a decent amount of my time sitting in Beis Din and writing, doing the hearings and writing up Piskei Din, writing up rulings. So you guys are learning Choshen Mishpat. I see you learning Sanhedrin. Today's topic will actually include quite a bit of Bav Metzia. Anybody learn Bav Metzia? Yay? Okay. I did all of it, but from a few different places in Bav Metzia. But the type of thing that if you didn't learn the Gemara, you may be able to think for yourself. It's called being machavin. You got to think for yourself some of the stories that come up in the Gemara to solve our problem. So first I want to speak about Beis Din a little bit in general, about what happens in Beis Din, why to go to Beis Din. And then I want to have a reenactment with your help of a din Torah that we had a few years ago. And then I want to discuss together, start with you, what you guys think the psak should be, what do you think the relevant svarot, the relevant pieces of logic should be, and try to build a psak. And then I will share with you with the time that remains, probably not all of it, but I will share with you what I came up with, which I hope was right, but it happened that hopefully we'll come up with the same thing. Otherwise, since people paid money based on what I said, hopefully I'm right. Okay. When you guys paskin, hopefully you'll be right. But hopefully we'll all agree more or less to the same idea. Okay, this is the case which happened with two families of Olim. Eretz Hashem, you should be zoche make aliyah when the time is right. See, this case, almost always we do everything in Hebrew. Sometimes we do half of the things in Hebrew. Since we have some English speakers in the Beit Din and Hebrew speakers, and all of our English speakers speak Hebrew, the Dayanim. We will not infrequently have a din Torah between an Israeli and an American. And that's rough. Because in addition to asking the questions and listening and try to follow up questions, figure out what's going on, we're also busy translating for the side that didn't understand. This is a case was between two English speakers, and therefore I wrote up the psak. Still remember a little bit of English. I wrote up the psak, the case and the psak in English. Okay? Now, I want volunteers. I want to take two guys who will read the case and will represent for us plaintiff and defendant in this case. They'll go out and read the things and think about how they're going to prepare, take notes for yourself, how you're going to prepare your claim and your defense, respectively. And the rest of you I'll speak to about how Beis Din works, why to go to Beis Din, and take your questions. Okay? If people don't need long, then they can and the question and answers about Beis Din as well. Do I have any volunteers? Don't be shy. Okay, you do one. So you're first, you get to choose, you want to be defendant or plaintiff. Okay, so we start with the plaintiff. That's how it works in Beis Din. So you can be the story, okay, and you just try to think how you represent the situation. Just one thing, what's in the middle is something in parentheses. I meant to take it out according to. So don't include that in your presentation. Now we need a defendant. Michal, right? Yeah. So we volunteers. Michal's going to have to choose who his opponent is. Okay. Going once, going twice. It's the initial bit.
You see how chill I am right now? Incredible. I just like reach this level of Joe. I just don't want to break it.
Okay. Who's going to do it? You do it? Okay. If you want, you can stay in. If you want, you can go out. Depends if you need quiet or not. But fine. You work on that. Let's talk a little bit about Beis Din. Now, Beis Din is a court. And there is a lot in common between Beis Din, a rabbinical court, and a secular court. A lot in common. And there's certain significant things that are different. Probably things are different from one country to another. I've never, for many years, I wanted to be a lawyer. And that was my profession of choice, my second profession of choice. And someday I'll have to admit what my first profession of choice is. Went on television now, but if you did, I would have thought that maybe I would be old already now, but you would have seen me. I was going to be a professional football player, running back specifically. But after that, when I found out what the guys looked like underneath their pads, I realized that wasn't it. So I was going to be a lawyer. So I didn't end up being a lawyer. I get to now deal with lawyers from the other side of the bench. Now the halacha is that if two Jews have a dispute, monetary dispute, they have to go to Beis Din. What are you up in Sanhedrin? What's that? Towards the beginning, towards the beginning of the year. What's that? Ches? Ches. Okay, so you already passed it. Vav, you did. Yeah? The Gemara in Daf Vav talks about Pshara. It says there are two approaches taken to Din. One of two brothers. Who are the two brothers? They talk about their different style of Din. Moshe and Aaron. Moshe used to say, Yikov Hadin Esahar. You got halacha, the halacha wins. It doesn't make a difference what it's up against. Halacha wins. Makes a hole in the mountain. But Aaron had a different approach to him. And Aaron said, it was Rodef Shalom. And he used to try to avoid Din. Do Pshar. Tosis is bothered there. Is this machlokas between them? I mean, it could be. Brothers do disagree sometimes. But here, Moshe Rabbeinu taught Aaron Torah. What's this going on? So Tosis points out that Moshe was a dayan and Aaron was not a dayan. Before you go to a dayan, you can work it out. You can work out the dispute any way which the two sides agree upon. There's nothing wrong with it. You want to do a pshar, you want to do a compromise? Great. But don't you want to know the truth? No, I'd rather not have a fight. And just get it over with. Okay, if you want, you can flip a coin. Maybe a little bit. So I might think that. I have to think about that, about flipping a coin. But you're allowed to do any type of adjudication, not adjudication, any type of problem solving, certainly mediation. You guys know what mediation is? Mediation, arbitration. Mediation when the two sides agree. Arbitration is when they agree to listen to what somebody rules. Mediation means that somebody will help the two sides come to an agreement. Okay, that's mediation. So Aaron was a mediator. He used to get people in the right mood, in the right sense of, hey, how you doing? The right sense of what's important in life and what's more important, a little bit of money. Or peace. Well, you compromise and not have a fight. Now, if you can't work it out peacefully, and you need to go to formal adjudication, then the halacha is that two Jews have to go to Beis Din. Okay? Even though they can agree to anything, they're not allowed to go to secular court. Make sense to you guys? They can agree to anything. They can't go to secular court. Why can't they go to secular? That's one of the possibilities, right? We will both feel happy if you go to secular court. Nobody will stop yelling at each other. Why can't you go to secular court? Anybody have a guess? You're fat. But what if? But I'm allowed to avoid excellent, and we're going to go there. I'm just going to give you a little problems before I agree with you. Okay? I can't agree right away. I'm a rabbi. We have to first get you a little sweat a little bit. We can use a system other than Torah. We can just agree. We can do all sorts of things. We can ask our neighbor, what do you think? Who do you think is right? Okay? But we can't go to secular court. So if you're right that you have to use, and you are right, that you have to use din Torah, so how can I use a different system? Why is secular court worse than asking my neighbor?
Because asking your neighbor is what I haven't given the same answer as I answered before.
Okay.
To say that asking your neighbor is like asking for advice, and it's going to a different court system. It's saying that this system is better.
Yeah. Excellent. What's your name? Okay. So Max says something very, very deep, very correct, and this is the Rashba says it in more dramatic terms. That he had practiced being a lot of things. In any case, if you want to avoid the dispute and not find out what the truth is, okay, so avoid it. That's fine. That's wonderful. Avoid the dispute. But if you're going to say, we're going to now use the ultimate tools, when you go to court, saying we use the ultimate tools that we have as a society to come to the truth, so then it's got to be in Beis Din. Because otherwise, the Torah gives all sorts of rules. Says Arashba, so you're just saying, oh, Parshas Mishpatim, we don't need a Parshas Shoftim's got some. Well, the Parshas Mishpatim is perhaps the most central place where lots of Dini Choshen Mishpat come up. But in a lot of places, just throw it out. You don't need it. Just make up your own. So that is the front of the Torah. So that's saying, I want to do the proper way. I don't want to do something just to avoid the problem. And then you have to use din Torah. Okay? So that's a requirement. What happens, and this happens quite a bit, what happens if I know this halacha? That I have to go to Beis Din. If I'm going to go to court, it has to be to Beis Din. But the other side does not believe in that. He wants to go to secular court. What's going to happen practically? If I'll go to Beis Din. They'll say, bring him to court, right? Summon him to court. He'll get the letter. Probably written in English and the Hebrew if it's in America, and Hebrew. Okay? What will the guy do with it if he doesn't believe in this stuff? Throw it out. Yeah. Ignore it. So what do I do now? I'm not allowed to go to secular court. So what do I do? What do I do? So, what's that?
You get permission from Beis Din.
So you get permission from Beis Din. Originally it was something called a Ktav Siruv. The different versions of how to do it nowadays. You have a letter, it used to be very harsh letter from the Beit Din that who dares not come to Beit Din when they're summoned. But if he doesn't, so the other side gets to go to recover his money. The plaintiff gets to recover his money in whatever court that is pertinent. Okay? If they do come to Beis Din, how's it work? Let's say everybody from America or other countries here? America? Okay. Or other place. Fine. How does it work that you go to Beis Din? Is that going to be is that like going to court? What happens if you can have the defendant, for example, okay? The plaintiff starts a process, he goes to Beis Din. The defendant gets a letter, you're summoned to come. If he says no, the Beit Din is not going to be able to force him. That's the way it is in America and in Israel as well. What happens if he does come? So, you know what? I got an idea. I'll come. If I win, I win. If I lose, what do? I'll decide then not to pay the money. Okay? What if the defendant does that? So how do you solve the problem? What's done practically? What's that? How am I gonna force him? Excellent. What's that called? Okay, you guys get the Hebrews. Okay. Shtar Beruin in Hebrew about Shtar Borut, Ktav Borut. In English, it's called an arbitration agreement. And in most, I'm really not expert in international law, but I have served in Israel and in America. And I think all Western countries have arbitration agreements and rules of arbitration in which you don't have to go to the courts. Many times people will go, instead of going to courts, they'll go to a retired judge or a lawyer and they'll sign an arbitration agreement to do that, okay? Anybody heard of baseball? Yeah, round thing, stick. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, I think we've all heard of that. In any case, there they have arbitration, right? Team wants to pay, what is it, after 5 years? Team wants to pay X amount for the guy for the next year, and the player wants to get more. Usually the player wants more. Then the team wants to give. The question who is right. So at some point you become a free agent. Earlier in your career, you can't be a free agent, but you can go to arbitration. You go to some panel, which I've never been asked to be on. But okay, and they decide who's right. It's not like court, but it's arbitration, and then it's binding because they sign an arbitration agreement. Then if you don't listen, if you sign an arbitration agreement and you don't listen, so then the courts will say, 1 second, we can't have a system like that people sign arbitration agreement and then they don't keep it, and therefore the government will enforce the ruling of the arbitrators, unless the arbitrators messed up. First of all, they didn't sign the agreement correctly, or they did something which they don't have authority. Okay, there's certain things you don't have authority for in arbitration. For example, one thing you certainly have is criminal things. But even within monetary things, there's certain things that you don't have, that arbitrators do not have jurisdiction. I think in most countries, things have to do with child. The husband and wife have a dispute. They're getting divorced. They want to discuss what's going to be with the children. As far as I know, in most cases, the courts want to deal it with themselves, because arbitration means that I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to give in if the arbitrator says this. But 1 second, what happens if it's bad for the kid? Just because the two sides agree doesn't mean that the court should allow something bad for the kid. So usually, as far as the child welfare issues, there is no jurisdiction for arbitrators. What else could ruin arbitration agreement is if the arbitrators were not fair. If one side can demonstrate the arbitrator favored the other side, spoke to the other side, obviously if he took a bribe, spoke to one side not in the presence of the other side, all sorts of things that according to the laws of arbitration, they didn't keep what he's supposed to, then it gets thrown out. Fine. Are we ready? Yeah? Okay, we're ready to go. Remind me your name? Ezra. Okay? So we're starting with Nechal. Is going to be the what exactly are you doing? You are now telling a story and telling why Ezra owes you money. I'll help you. Okay? Even though it's he's a plaintiff. Okay? Even though it's been a few years since the case happened, but I should still remember well enough to help you. Okay? You want him up here?
Sure.
Who's watching you in America? You want to do it now by the here? Okay, fine. There's nothing nicer than a little modesty.
Okay, so me and another family moving to Israel, and so the family paid, I think, to have a crate shipped from America to Israel. It cost a lot of money. They shipped to their house in Israel, and they didn't need all the room in it, so they were renting it out to certain people. So my family paid $1,500 to get some of that room, so I can ship some of my stuff from America to Israel, some also make money out.
Let me just give a little bit of background.
Yeah.
When you ship something, I know from when I made Aliyah, and when I did Shlichut and came back from Shlichut, if you don't have a huge amount to send, then you send a lift in that you put all your stuff on a platform. They build a box around it, whatever size however big your stuff comes out, they build a box around it, and they send it. Okay? That costs per square, whatever, that costs a relatively large amount of money because they put it to size, it's to your size, and when you do things in bulk and certain standard size, then you get cheaper rates. But so there's something called a container, which is a set box that they provide for you, not that they build for you, a set size. Now, it's very big. If you have a lot of stuff, you want a container. If you don't have so much stuff, then you're wasting all that space, and you're going to pay more. So what did this person say? There's a good chap. What's the chap? I can fill 2/3 of the box of the container. I can't do the whole thing. It doesn't pay for me like this. But if I find other people who want to send things, so then we can share in the price, in the costs, and then we'll all come out ahead. That was the idea. Got the idea? So it was $10,000 for the container, approximately. $1,500. The Sherman family paid $1,500 out of that because they were sending a decent amount of stuff as well. They were also old name. Okay, go ahead.
With the stuff they sent us, I guess a bunch of household items, like stuff that used to be broken, which they more, and their own boxes, and they, I guess in America, put it in the past, they brought the stuff over.
That's what's your last name? Lipinski, yes. I brought Lipinski, yes. Okay.
And all the insurance stuff like that, the insurance that is involved is all under the defendant's name. They didn't go through, they're renting out a room, it's all from the defendant.
Okay, as far as the shipping company knows, they're only the Shermans. They don't know from the Pinskis. Okay? They deal with the company deals with the Shermans. Mr. Pinsky, Mr. and Mrs., Rabbi Dr. and Mrs., whatever they are, deal with the Shermans, but the Shermans are the only one who deal with the company. He's the plaintiff.
No, yeah.
Okay? We're going to find out how you messed up, if you did mess up. See?
Okay. Meanwhile, so what happened? So they bring it, it's supposed to get shipped to the Pinsky house in Israel. So the stuff gets sent, and I go to the Pinsky's house and pick up the stuff, and I see that the movers forgot to put bubble wrap on some of the stuff.
You guys know the bubble wrap, right?
Yeah.
We all know how to. So much fun. I wish I could be a kid to do that again. Okay.
And they, and they put some of the, I had my stuff labeled in my own box. It appears they mixed my stuff and Pinsky stuff as well. They made a couple of mistakes the movers did. And I go in to try to find my stuff, and I realized that some of it didn't make it, some of it's lost, and some of the stuff got broken. Okay.
Right.
And
You got the numbers there?
Actually, what's that?
Second to last paragraph, you got the number. Oh, a second. I can give this out already.
So obviously I'm very upset because I want some of my stuff got broken, some of it's not there, and the defendant when they I guess in the agreement it was said in the agreement that the stuff that they're going to do, they're going to do whatever it takes, they're going to do their best to make sure the stuff gets there, and obviously the insurance should have covered it. So the defendants tried, they made a few claims with the insurance company, but for whatever reason it didn't go through, and the defendants they gave up. And at this point, the plaintiffs want them to pay for they want Pinsky's to pay for my lost items, for my broken items. Outside the store, I guess, right?
$316 for lost.
And right,
$450 and 63 cents. Based on the itemized list of things that were broken.
And shipping fees.
By the way, I do want to mention that I do want to praise both the Shermans and the Pinskys because they told me previously, like a few years ago, the reason they came to Beis Din, it's not a huge amount of money. We make Beis Din very cheap, so people should be encouraged to come. We don't do it like we were professional arbitrators who are doing it for the money. But still, it's wasn't so much money that it really probably paid to come for work, but the two sides felt they were friends, and they felt, even though it's not a big deal, this amount of money we can handle, we can come to Pshara. Each one felt that they were wrong, and felt that they were finding themselves resenting the other side. And therefore they want to come and say, you know what? Let's see what the Torah has to say, and then whatever the Torah has to say, then fine. Then if I have to pay, I don't feel bad about it. Gemara Sanhedrin involved in the base has interesting things to say about that. That stuck or mishpat, whatever. To review, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I really have to praise you guys for wanting to get on and not resent each other, and therefore find what the true. Hopefully, I tried. The true psak should be. Okay, Mr. Pinsky, what do you have to say for yourself?
Well, I think it's not my fault, it's more the company's fault. And that you should take everything with them and not with me. I did everything I was supposed to do. And I was doing you a favor by letting you not have any contact with the companies involved in the shipping, and everything was under my name, so there was no tax and everything.
Yeah, okay.
So I think there's no planning for me.
Because you did what you were supposed to do.
Well, I would say back to that then.
But so let's just make sure we have the plaintiff says, and then the defendant. Only when we know that both is finished, we go back to a little bit of back and forth, and maybe even open things to the distinguished members of the extended court. Yes. Are you finished with the defense? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, well, first of all, it wasn't a favor at all. They had to pay a lot of money, and it might have been, we don't really know the measurements. Was it? Me, right. I don't know, meaning, not to say that the Pinsky's ripped me off at all, but I'm not sure if my $1,500 was exactly 15 out of 10, meaning the exact amount of space that it would cost for that, or they were just trying to make as much money as they could. Not being greedy, but just making up a price. But it certainly wasn't a favor. No, I don't think anyone would say it's a favor. And there's a lot for shipping. And the other thing is that I feel, it should be the responsibility of the Pinskys, because the agreement, it was said that they need to do their best to make sure that the items were packaged in a bulky manner, which obviously means bubble wrap and stuff that's not going to get broken. And really, it's really your responsibility to see to it that stuff gets packaged like that. And how should that be?
Who is responsible to do the shipping? The packing. And sometimes you can pack.
Movers.
People can pack themselves. And the movers. You're the movers.
Yes.
Both agree.
I would. Yes,
the movers.
But
so
yeah.
Was it?
It was the movers. But if he's gonna, in the agreement, tell me that I'm gonna make sure that it gets done in a bulky manner, that it gets done with bubble wrap, and your stuff gets packaged nicely. Then be there with the movers. Make sure that it happens. Why? I mean, that was part of the agreement. Then why say that in the first place if you're not going to be there?
When I gave the boxes and all the items you gave me, I gave it to movers. They're a very professional company. I trusted them, and I let them take it to where the crate was, and they packaged it there.
So you couldn't see it.
Oh, was it?
Why tell me
It
no
wasn't done in the house.
It wasn't done right.
It was.
Oh, what?
So I think you should see to it. If you're going to tell me it's going to be done in that manner, you need to make sure it's done in that manner.
That's a great time. The only reason that you wouldn't want to see is because, well, maybe I know that because you looked at it a really good job. Do we have any questions from the court? You said it's great, so we can make it for you. You said 5. It's just got to be an odd number, right? So that one? Get up to that? Yeah, you had that already. Aim baked in? Shakul. You have even baked in. You have an odd number. Okay. Any questions from the court? Okay. Yeah. No questions. Okay. Then I have a question. We'll start with the non-participants. That is, we don't have a question for them. What do you think? Let's try to analyze this step by step and try to figure out who was right. Okay, we ready? Okay, how many guys learn Bava Metzia? Parts of it. Okay. Some of it you need to know Gemaras, and some of it you just need to know Mishnayos. Just Mishnayos. Mishnayos is plenty. But first question I want to know is how do we characterize? Do we have any halachic terms for Mr. Sherman and Mr. Pinsky? One is a tovea, one is a nitba, right? Was a plaintiff, was a defendant. What other halachic categories? What were they doing? What was their roles? What roles were they playing? Halachic roles, halachic categories of. In a different case, it might have been a buyer and a seller.
Renting space.
Renting, okay, renting space. Messer shliach, okay. This is a special type of shliach. We could call him a shliach, which we have in a few prakim in Bava Metzia. What's that? If I heard correctly, I think it's right. I'm not sure if I heard correctly. Yeah? Okay, what is it? I'm not sure. Shomer, a watchman. Now, there's different types of watchmen. Some have uniform on, got a gun. And some is like, can you just hold this for me? Yeah, I need to go. Just hold it for me, okay? That's a shomer. Doesn't have to be something fancy. So, Ezra is a shomer for Michal, correct? He's watching. You see, it's not so simple. Maybe that's why you guys backed out of it. He is watching for the course of a certain amount of time, from the time it's put in Ezra's house. He's watching the material for Michal and family. Okay, before the movers come, what happens if he leaves the door open, somebody walks in and steals it? What happens if he lets his kids play, while they're still in America, play baseball and start breaking things with the baseball bat before he's responsible? Right? So can we call him a shomer? Yeah, now we have agreement?
One of the things that if you leave it in person's shomer,
yeah,
and then something out of their control happens.
Okay, you're fit. Arab Shomer maybe. I think it's a mission in Shuas. I think the same mission, or part of the same mission is also in Bava Metzia. Arab Shomer maybe. There are 4 Shomrim: Shomer Chinam, Shomer Sachar, Socher, and Shoel. Okay? The Shomer, one who has the Shomer Chinam means he's not paid for it. He has the least amount of responsibility. He's only chayav for, the Shomer Chinam is only chayav for negligence. Negligence called in Hebrew? Shia. Okay? And Shlichus Yad. We'll leave Shlichus Yad for now. Shomer Sachar is chayav more. He's even chayav for Geneva Va'aveda. Shoel is chayav in everything. Socher is machlokas. Who's he like? Okay? So we might want to know over here, let's say that we decide that Ezra didn't do a perfect job. I think he did a perfect job. Perfect. Couldn't have been better.
It did insure their items.
Okay. Well, that'll take us to a new twist. But as far as watching the things itself, you sure he did a perfect job or a good job? Does it have to be perfect or not? Okay, so first we need to know, well, what type of shomer is he? Because a shomer sachar is chayav more than a shomer chinam. Was he paid for watching? Okay. So it could be that we didn't discuss. Even you said, it could be even in my description, I didn't say exactly. How did they come to the price? They showed the movers. Here, you see this pile? This is from the Shermans. What percentage of the container should it take up? They said about 15%. Oh, we're going to bubble wrap it. Be about 15%. $10,000 was for the entire container. So they say, what? $1,500 in advanced mathematics. Okay? So they're just paying for... He's paying for... Well, at first sense, I would say to rent the space.
And then he just insured it with the company.
Who insured it? Sherman's insured it.
Under price.
Okay, well, we'll see if we'll have time to get to that. We'll have to see if time to get to that, because a lot of points that we can't get to all. Yeah.
One quick point is that it seems to be, at least in the way that this paragraph is written, that he maybe paid a little bit more money, a little bit more than maybe what it could have been, so that I'm that he's sure that it's going to be done in the bulky way. That's what it says.
Right.
It says which is justified large fee.
Right. So let me explain what happened. In other words, because it's going to be done bulky, therefore it's going to take up more. You think it's not so much stuff. You don't know how big it is, how much space it will take up, because you don't know what it looks like when it's. That was what they meant.
I was in the room with the bulky package.
Right. But you're paying for the room.
Right.
So you're not. Is he being paid Is he being paid extra to watch? Doesn't seem like it. Should be a shomer chinam. Trick question. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought not. I thought he was a shomer sach. Why is he a shomer sach? For this, you need to get a little deeper into Bav Metzia. Da pay. Say what? I don't remember. I think pay. Maybe it's just pay. In any case, the more deeper in Bav Metzia says that you don't have to pay somebody here. Here, take some money. Take from this pocket, from this pocket. Here, take some money. Watch it. You know, even if you don't pay money, you can still be a shomer sacha. For example, if I say, Max, can you watch something for me? Well, Max is a chaf b'shalom. He's got better meters than I do, I'm sure. But let's say this time Max is playing businessman. He says, you know what? Why should I? How much are you going to pay me? Pay me? I don't want any money. You know what? We're in the same yeshiva together, right? Today I need to watch. I promise you that if you ask me to watch for you, I'm required to watch for you. Okay? So today you watch for me, and in return, I'll watch for you some other time. Okay? Now it's our relationship. I'm not paying him a penny. Shomer sach or shomer chinam? So the Gemara says, it's Mishnah. Shomer sach. Why? Shmor li v'shmor lecha. Because you don't have to get money. You have to get something which is of value. If I promise to watch for him, watching something for somebody is worth money. He's doing it ostensibly for free, but he's not. He's doing it for the same service back, and therefore we each have an interest in doing it. Therefore, to shomer sachar. Over here, Ezra's an incredibly wonderful guy. But the reason that he did this, he took out ads, whatever, he asked people around in the neighborhood, in the area, who wants to take part, was not just for chesed. He wanted to make it worthwhile to take the container, because if nobody's going to do it with him, the container's too big. He'd like other people to do it, they can get a better price. So he's doing it, even though you're only paying for the assumed space, but Ezra is doing it in order to get something of monetary value, be able to use the container and get a better price, and therefore Ezra is a shomer sachar, which means we up the ante. The level of shmir, he's going to be chayiv on geneva va'aveda. Okay, literally, if it's stolen or aveda. But those things are not just if it gets stolen or lost. That means that, that the level of professionalism, the level of dedication that he needs is higher. Okay, and if it's sort of borderline, Ezra's going to be a little bit more in trouble. Okay. Hamafkid. Anybody learn Hamafkid? Yeah, Picadon, right? Okay, somewhere, a few dapim into, that daf escapes me. Maybe on the Zayin, right there. There's a sugya, which is similar to this. And it's called, I don't know how many people have done it. I'll start. If somebody recalls it, they can scream it out. Otherwise, I'll continue. Shomer, shemasar, l'shomer. One watchman gives it over to another. In other words, Mr. Shorman gave to Mr. Pinsky the things to watch. Now, Mr. Pinsky, for a second, how do you go to Israel? By plane. You didn't go in the boat? I mean, the stuff went in the boat. You didn't go in the boat? Once upon a time, Mr. He used to come to Israel by boat. Right? They didn't go in the boat. He's in the plane. So how do you know something's not going to happen to the stuff? The answer is, you gave it over to somebody else to watch. The Machlokes, Rav and Shmuel, somebody gives something to me to watch, and I give it to somebody else. And then it gets lost or stolen or something happens to it. Does the shomer who took responsibility, can you say, hey, don't look at me, I gave it to him. Ask him. You say, no. The buck stops by you. I gave it to you. Who says you can give it to somebody else? And therefore, you, the first shomer, will be responsible. Okay?
So yeah, knowledge of the.
Yeah, all. So the answer, Ezra feels like he's in trouble over here. So Ezra comes up with a very pertinent point. And that is, there are different types of shomer, shemasel, shomer. There's one, I gave it to you and I expected you to watch it. There are other times I don't expect you to watch it. I knew you were going to give it to somebody else. The most common case that the Gemara talks about is you gave it to me and I left it in my house. I was going to go to daven, I was going to go to work, I was going to go different places. You didn't expect me to stand the whole time. And who was in charge then? My wife, my older responsible kids. So is that called shomer shemasel shomer? You say, hey, why do you give it to your wife to watch? What do you think? I mean, that's husband and wife. They help each other with their different obligations. Kids, older kids, they help out in the house. You didn't realize that my kids and my wife are going to be watching you some of the time? You thought I was going to be there 24/7. I was going to be just watching your thing? And therefore, you can't complain, hey, why did you give it to somebody else? If you knew that unless you stipulate otherwise, every family does it, that the husband and the wife and the kids pitch in. In this case, can Mr. Sherman complain, hey, you gave it to this company, what do you think? I was going to put it in my carry-on? I was going to put all your boxes in my carry-on and take it on the plane with you? You didn't know? Obviously, I told you the story, container, shipping companies. So if the shipping companies didn't do a good job, you're not happy with the shipping company? If you didn't happy with the shipping company, what could you have done? Yeah? You don't trust his choice of shipping companies. I happen to know which shipping company they use, and it's a reputable shipping company. People make mistakes. You could have asked him, can you tell me which shipping company you are? Let me ask around. Is it a good company or not? Okay, I don't know if you knew or if you didn't know, but you certainly could have known who it is. And therefore, can you say, well, if they make a mistake, you can't say it's Ezra's fault, because they made a mistake with your stuff, and you were just as involved as him. So as far as responsibility, it seems that this would be a case where we wouldn't fault Ezra for all of the mistakes of the company. Okay? However, there's still a few, I skipped over a little bit also, but there's still a few things to be concerned about. Let's say the mafkir, the person who gives over the thing, knows that there's going to be another shomer. Does that mean the first shomer is automatically patur? There may be a situation where, the different times, the different people are going to be responsible. And therefore, what do you expect? Michael, what do you expect of Ezra? You don't expect him to go inside the ship, okay, and make sure that nothing gets in there. But what do you expect from him?
Well, I expect him when he said they was packing his house. Oversee the packing and make sure something.
Okay. So you say that even though there's somebody else, but that doesn't mean you're out of the picture. It means that you're involved together. So you have to make sure that which is usually when people do packing, when people use shippers, as much as they trust the company has a good reputation, but whatever. A lot of the workers there are getting minimum wage and didn't necessarily go to the Harvard School of shipping and packing. Yes, Eric. So you're going to supervise. If your stuff, when it was my stuff, I supervised as much as I could. Okay? So, yeah.
Was any of Ezra's stuff broken too?
I think not. Which I think the Ezra in the case said, hey, they didn't do such a bad job. My stuff wasn't broken. I guess he didn't daven well. He didn't say that. He didn't daven well. But, so Ezra said, I don't remember if it's in my description or not, that you have no idea what it was like. These workers, they have a team, 10 people. You had your stuff in the basement. I had my stuff throughout the house. I couldn't be everywhere at the same time. If you wanted to come and supervise the stuff, I would have let you into the house for friends. I wouldn't have said, trespassing. I tried my best. There's certain things I saw, certain things I didn't see. And I wasn't pushea in my side. Okay? On the other hand, now we go back to the question of shomer chinam and shomer sachar. Why does it make a difference over here? Shomer chinam and shomer sachar. Because even if Ezra wasn't totally negligent, but are you sure, Ezra, that you couldn't have done a better job? Couldn't have had you in one place, your wife in another place. You couldn't have told the workers, wait, not so fast. I need to check before you put it in. I want to make sure everything's bubble wrapped. Maybe you could have done a better job. And this is where we come in to pshara. Okay, you guys learned Sanhedrin Davav. We get into pshara. Okay? When do we... I don't know, maybe you did learn this. This is something that you wouldn't get directly from the Gemara. Pshara could be something the sides agree to. We don't want to follow din, we want to follow compromise. But there's another time to use compromise, and that is the Dayanim. This is Nahug, I think, and all the Bati Din I know about. The Dayanim can say that it will not be proper justice. We can't expect us to know exactly. We need to be able to put in pshara into the din. Called pshara akrov l'din. Now you guys learn Bav Metzia, or Shavuos, and maybe other places, or even Parshas Mishpatim with Rashi. Okay? See one of the psukim. Kol dvar teshel shor chamor sal samakol avedah shemar ki v'zeh ad Elohim yavod dvar shnehem. No, that's not the one I want. I'm sorry, that's not the pasuk I want. In a few places, the pasuk talks about a shavua. If one of the cases of the shavua, the three types of shavua d'oraisa, if a watchman says, I am telling you, you have to trust me. You weren't there. You have to trust me, I did a good job of watching it. Says the machti, the person who gave it over, listen, I know I wasn't there. Can I trust you? Somewhat, but I don't trust you fully. I want you to swear to me that you did a good job. Okay? So, Michal can say to Ezra, okay, we're in Beis Din. Swear that you did a good enough job. Now, has anybody ever heard of somebody swearing in Beis Din? You ever speak to somebody swearing in Beis Din? I'd be interested to know. Because, not a desire thing to do, and for hundreds of years, I don't remember exactly when it started, but for hundreds of years, we don't do shvuos in Beis Din. We're afraid of the punishments that the people can get. We don't do shvuos. So, one second. So the Ezras of the world just get off free? So this is a case that we implement compromise. We say like this. Ezra, if you had sworn that you did a good enough job for a shomer sachar, not even as a shomer chinam, you did a professional job of overseeing, if you swear, then you will be pater. You want to swear? Hopefully not, because we're not going to let you anyway. So you're pater, you're not going to have to pay. Oh, we'll make you pay because you can't swear, but we told you not to swear. So what do? We do a pshara. Okay, we do a pshara in lieu. Okay, in lieu of the shavua, we say that you'll pay a partial payment. How much do you pay? That's up to the discretion of the Beis Din, which will base it on different things. I think time is a little bit. Was that okay? Beis Din take different factors and trying to figure out how much to have him pay. So in this case, we sort of went a little bit maximum with Ezra. Okay, we made him pay a third by the things that were broken. Okay, we made him pay a third, which is quite a bit. Okay, in lieu of the shvuah. Why did we make him do it? Because we sort of had a following cheshbon. Listen to this calculation. Hopefully it's a fair calculation. It's a little bit of a svek sveka. First of all, one reason for the shvuah is because maybe he's lying. Maybe Ezra says, you know what, don't use the bubble wrap. Come on, I don't care. I never liked the Sherman guy anyway. In theory, it could be. So maybe he knows something he's not telling us, and therefore we want him to swear. But what's very likely to happen in this case is that even if he would swear, and he told us a story of exactly what happened, exactly what he did, exactly how he ran. Well, he didn't run. He's not so fast. Maybe he is. He doesn't run from one place. He walked. See, well, he did go out to pick up the newspaper. He's leaving soon. He wants to see the newspaper. He wants to see what's happening. He wasn't there sort of. He might be a borderline case where he didn't do a horrible job. Was he over which side of the line was he on? Right? We have instant replay. Sometimes, right, the officials, even with the instant replay, they have to spend a few minutes to try to see who got there first. Did he cross the line of the goal line? Or didn't cross the goal line? It's not always easy to tell. So, in addition to the shvuah, even if we do believe him 100%, it's still likely to be a case that he might have not been good enough, and therefore we made him pay on the broken things. Made him pay a third. Took a different approach to the things that are lost, and that's because of something which you didn't talk about. I don't remember I think I wrote it, and that's the following: the things that are lost. When things are broken, you see it. They're broken pieces. Yeah.
You did right. When they're lost, the defendant said that they weren't sure if they'd ever been brought in the first place.
Right. Okay. Says Ezra. 1 second. The stuff that's lost. How do things get lost? What happened? The vase, the games, the books they took on the boat. They decided to take a walk on the deck, and they fell off. How did something get lost? In my house, we put it in a box. We sealed the container. We opened the container only in our house in Israel. How did it get lost? Maybe, just maybe. What's that? What's that? How? What's that? Back at home. Maybe they left it in the car. Maybe they thought. In any case, I didn't figure out. And they really people were pretty honest and forthcoming, nice people, very nice people. They're listening there somewhere than being screamed to it. I don't think anybody can figure out who we're talking about, but they happen to have been nice people. But it's very strange. We didn't figure out how it got lost. But one of the possibilities, they thought that they brought it. Now, in Beis Din, there was the husband and the wife. On the Sherman side, there was the husband and the wife. The wife was the main person in charge of the checking. And the husband said something like, right, you are sure that we gave him all that stuff, right? And she said, yeah. He said, okay, yeah, we are sure. Okay? So the husband sounded not 100% sure. The wife sounded more sure. But, sometimes a person's not a liar, but sometimes they give themselves the benefit of the doubt. And you're sure of something and you're wrong. It happens. Honest people can be wrong. What the Torah tells us is that when you have an interest in something, you'll usually take sides in your favor, and therefore you can convince yourself that you're sure, but maybe you weren't 100% sure. You thought that it was, but if the stuff's not there, then maybe I didn't. So it was a little bit of a sex faker. First of all, if it got lost, maybe it wasn't Ezra's fault. And if it did get lost, I'm sorry. Maybe Ezra is right, it wasn't his fault. But you know what? Maybe a more basic thing, it's possible they never brought it. And therefore, because of that, on the stuff that was lost, we gave only 10%. 10% of the value. The thing that was left to do was to figure out how to evaluate. There's several interesting points, but I think I would just end now and leave a couple of minutes for questions if there are. Any questions? Yeah.
Two questions. My first question was regarding to hedging now, as you mentioned. What about debt over? As a designee, you say to them, listen, you have a right to take your bowler, and you have a right to take your bowler.
Right.
That practice, to my knowledge, not being so used to it. It's all better.
Right.
Recommend it.
So we assume that it's better to do a set course than to do a borer. If you're up on some of the stories that happened in Bet Din, it's Borus is very, very murky issue. I don't want to get all the details. There's some slightly dirty laundry. The system of having a set based in works much better. If the two sides can't agree on a set based in, okay, and there's what the rabbi's talking about. If one possibility is that you have to go to a based, another one is that each side picks a dayan, and the two dayanim pick a third dayan. Usually, but they didn't prefer to have a set based in. First of all, they know that they work together. They worked together in the past, and they're usually more harmonious.
Well, maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe they're all used to. In fact,
So,
you want to get someone from the outside. You want to get fresh.
Right. So usually, what happens is the best thing is if they pick a based in, who's they both sides respect. If they don't, the general rule is.
So let's say first I want to put my ball.
Our basin will say, then go ahead. We're not taking part in it. Once in the certain circumstances we agreed, started the process, and were exposed to the negative parts of the boer. Let me just say, practically with the Zeb Boer, the person who party A chooses, the question what this relationship is supposed to be. But sometimes there's a problem that the side, if I choose Dayan A, then I expect to get service from Dayan A, and that service can be very morally and halakhically problematic. Yafeh, excellent. But the question was Rashi. What does Rashi mean? Rashi doesn't mean that you agree with the person who did, but that what? You're the one who's got to be a policeman. Now, if you have three dayanim, the dayanim should keep on going back. Yafeh, should keep on going back and say, 1 second. We sided with one person. Are we sure we gave the other side? Maybe we should reanalyze and the other side is right. When you have boer in, each person, the person who chose you better make sure that all the possibilities on his side were said. But at the end of the day, you say you paskin what you think. So that's the assumption that we go with, that you can't show favoritism. There's Aruch HaShulchan who always tries, that's what he does throughout halacha, tries to be matzdik practices. And there was a question as far as the extent of the involvement. Can you speak to him? Can you speak to him? Not with the ex parte communication, which we assume that you're not allowed to speak to him, and some people do it. Paying, there are all sorts of problems, and therefore, for good reasons, I think Zeb Boer is not considered the most. It can lead towards problematic moral situations, and therefore we prefer to have a basin people agree with. They can't agree on a basin, and that's how it goes. Then it's the last course you can do it. But in our experience, we usually say the nitva has an advantage. And you often have a problem when the two people from different segments of society. One is Hasidic and one is modern Orthodox. So the Hasidic guy doesn't feel comfortable with the modern Orthodox based in, the modern Orthodox guy doesn't feel comfortable with Hasidic based in. And that's some of the cases that they may not agree. But in my experience in Israel, where I've been sitting for much more time, is we do only, you want us? Fine. You don't want us? Go somewhere else, but we're not willing to do. Yeah.
Would you say it was a different time? It was a different scenario in the Gemara. The Gemara obviously felt that was the best thing to do. It says, it's the way you're going to get real truth. Is it a different time?
In the Shulchan Aruch, I think prefers based in the best thing in the Halach, in the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, I think it's Ramah. Based in Kavua is best. There's a question whether we have based in Kavua. No, that's the Ramah understood. That's the time of the Gemara. Because there's situations where there is no base in Kavua. You don't have somebody's stet to go to. In the shtetl, it was a Rav. Okay, it was a Rav of the community. He had two of the more knowledgeable guys would sit with him, and you went to the Rav. You didn't do Zabor. That's what, in most of my understanding. I don't know how many shtetls I visited, but the Perek is this we paskin in any cases for situations where you don't have a good set solution, and therefore you have to. So what are you going to do? You're not going to hear anything. You can't agree. There's nobody set to go to, and therefore that's the way we paskin, and that's what my understanding of what works better. Yeah, Zabla. Because Zabla is in America, it's I think much more common than it is here. And yeah, for the better and for the worse. Any other questions? Yeah.
Someone's thinking to use both.
Depends what the rules were. Some of, for example, if he would pay me, if the plaintiff, because they have people who do it, the plaintiff pays, the defendant pays his boer, then absolutely would not. If I didn't think that. So I would try to see if I could get along, if I'd be on the same page with the other dayanim. And if they couldn't agree on a basis, and I would be on the same page with the other dayanim, and I would do it. If I didn't feel that that we have different training, we have different approaches, we have different sensitivities in a way that I felt was not just we have machlokas, but it's not what I believe based on should be, then I wouldn't. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So when you made the judge, was the policy to first ask both the plaintiff and defendant, do they come?
That's a good question. Right. That's usually what happens by the time they come to us. Let me just give out the psak. By the time they come to the dayanim, they've already been a process speaking to the secretariat, the director of the Beis Din, and it's usually pretty clear that they're not going there. If we see an opening, so we usually don't put a lot of stress on the pshara. Sometimes we'll try to see within the discussion. Sometimes one side doesn't see what the other side. They can't understand why the other side. I'm obviously right. Sometimes they hear with us. They're open-minded enough to see. The other side thinks they're crazy. I didn't realize what they were thinking. And then sometimes you will say, like, wait a second. Now, based on what you know, maybe it's a good time to do pshara. So straight out, if we say maybe we want to do a compromise, and say we tried, we discussed, we went for but we couldn't. So the answer is no. If we find later on, once upon a time they would come, and the question would go, they might go straight to the basis. Or if they went through the whole process, it was weeks and months, so if they tried to agree on something they couldn't, then we're not going to push hard in the beginning, but wait for a possibility later on. Yes.
In this case, in sending a pshara, like with the law side and stuff.
Pshara that, by the way, not that they agreed to, but a pshara that I imposed. I mean, they were fine. They were fine with it.
That's what I'm asking.
Right.
Is it a pshara that in terms of this is din pshara, or
this was a pshara krov l'din. Even if they had said we're not wanting to do a pshara, I would have said 1 second. So you want to swear? You can swear. I would have done. In this case, I would have done the same thing. Other cases, it might be a pshara which is not as close to din.
they have a right to say they want to do din, not
well, every Beis Din has an arbitration agreement and rules of their adjudication. And in our rules, in Eretz Hemda's rules of adjudication, it says that we have the right. Pshar krov l'din is considered like din, and as far as a bigger pshar than that, it says that the dayanim have the discretion to do it based on their judgment. Once they sign the agreement, we can do that. We don't have to ask them again. If we're going to do something, and it's rare, we're going to do something which is not even pshar krov l'din, then usually we're not going to want to impose it. We'll ask it, but that's rare. But in theory, we keep that right open to us. You come to us. There's certain things you have to give us leverage, because there are certain cases that you can't do in the regular way. Okay? And the din cannot be. You can't arrive at the din. Okay, based on the situation, how can it be? There are many different cases, but the Metzias, what they say? Fact is something fiction? How's it go? Fact is, what's that? Stranger than fiction, correct. Okay? The amount of cases that life actually brings to Beis Din is more. I'm not a most creative person in the world. I don't know if I had to write a screenplay for something. Like, I couldn't come up with that. I was like, wow, that really happened. Wow. We have to deal with it. Yeah, we have to deal with it. So there are any number of cases, but the great majority of the cases we can either do din or do pshar krovna din, especially when something cannot be decided black and white. There's a gray area. We reflect that gray area by giving 10%, 15%, 20%, a certain amount to deal with the gray area. It's hard to know because we don't speak with the people. We don't speak to people outside of court while it's going on, not before, not after, not during, after rarely also. Okay, if you did it right after, I was, for example, I wouldn't. If I got a call from somebody who won, and say, we won and we're so happy and we want to take you out for dinner. I'm not allowed to go. That's called shochad ma'uchar. That's called taking bribes after the case. Okay, which is not as bad doing it during, but it's also awesome. So sort of, if every once in a while I do bump into a baldin, and to be on the safe side, try to be very machmir in things of ethics, I sort of avoid them, or I sort of don't meet. So I don't know, but sometimes by calls that the secretary or the director gets, and people complain. Generally both sides are somewhat dissatisfied. That's usually the case. Is you're okay if both sides are dissatisfied. How can both sides be satisfied? Because one won and one lost. How can they both be dissatisfied? So the answer is even the case that they gave 98% to one and 2% to the other. We did a pshar. We toveh 15 things and we gave him 14, but the 15th we didn't think he deserved. So say 1 second. So if I'm right, how come I didn't get everything? I know 100%. And that guy's going to be laughing at me because it wasn't a shutout. He broke the shutout, right? He got the 2%. And I deserved everything. Even the guy who got 98% can be unhappy. And whatever. Try our best. We write very long rulings. Okay, so that this is short. This is one of the shortest ones I ever wrote. Yes. Yeah, so they're usually about I'm finishing up today, which is 16 pages. The last one before I did was 23 pages. So one thing for sure. I mean, usually most Bali Din can't really understand everything that we wrote. We try to, bring the Gemaras, bring the Rishon, the Achronim, then summarize. They can't understand everything, but one thing for sure, that they shouldn't say, you didn't have time, so you just flipped the coin and said, you liked my face, you didn't like my face, and you decide that they shouldn't say. You have something written out, explained. If you don't understand, go to the Rav of your shul, say this, hey, they ruled against me. And this is the joke of an explanation they do. The Rav maybe won't even agree with us. Most of the Rabbanim are not necessarily trained in Bayanis stuff, but they know things. But there shouldn't be a situation where they say, what in the world did they possibly? That shouldn't be a situation. There is, in our Beis Din, Mani Batei Din, we do have a setup of Irur, of appeal. If somebody is convinced that that it was a bad judgment, they can appeal. And since we have Batei Din, I work in one in Yerushalayim, but we have in like 8 or 9 different places in the country, we take an Av Beis Din, a head of a court, in one of the other places, and he reads the ruling, and he says, you know what? I don't know that I agree. I think there are grounds for appeal, and then we'll send it to a court of 3 from another 3 people to give the ruling. Every once in a while, the second group overturns, not usually, but sometimes it has happened in our history, which is, bad news that maybe the first one was wrong, but people are human, and it's good to have a system where there is recourse. As I said before, if they think that there was something immoral which went on, they can go to the secular court and say, don't accept the arbitration. The arbitration agreement was not done. The arbitration was not done in good faith. Baruch Hashem, we've never had a situation where we fell over there. The courts, I think, can see from our work that we do very, very, very machmir on the questions of ethics, and we try our best. Sometimes not always clear cut, the Rishonim, the Achronim argues, certainly Dayanim can argue with each other, but that we always try that things are the up and up. Yes.
Your Bet Din, like with the towing, or what do you feel that from?
You can come with towing. You can come with a lawyer. You can come with towing is a lawyer for religious courts. You can come with the towing. In the base I work for in Israel, you can come for a towing. In America, I haven't done it in a bunch of years. I'm not going to talk about that now. You can come with the towing. Usually, it's got its pluses and minuses. I prefer usually unless the side's not coherent. You guys were coherent, okay? You guys, if you did it yourselves, you were fine. I would have asked more questions. I had more time. I would have asked more questions, but you've represented it fine. You didn't know what not to say. I don't want you to know what not to say. If the truth is what you shouldn't be saying, then you should say it. Okay? That's you don't want to win. I don't want, and you should not want to win because you made sure what not to admit. It costs a lot of money if you use a lawyer. Okay, sometimes people spend. They pay us, very little money, which is fine. We're mainly a service for the community. But let's assume there is a mission in Avos, but we'll assume it's okay. It's reasonable. But one of the things about coming to Beis Din is that compared to the courts, we're faster and we're cheaper. So why for us? In this case, the service is a small amount of money. But if you're gonna ask for $10,000, you're gonna pay $4,000 on lawyers. So even if you win at $6,000, if you lose, you're at $4,000. So if people can be organized enough, we suggest not to do it. Yeah. I just last week I had the final of 8 hearings on the biggest case I ever heard, which was approximately 2 million shekel. I've had $300,000. I've had usually the median case is in the tens of thousands of dollars. But we had, sometimes a small one, they feel strongly about it, so $500 will come to us. So, but usually it's thousands, usually tens of thousands. But every once in a while, a big one, and we're trying that people should see that, even if you're like a multi-million-dollar company, we can. The Torah has these solutions, and we try to. We don't try to create anything. We just try to do very carefully that which the Torah tells us to do, and the Torah solutions to everything. Our Beis Din happens to be the thought that Torah takes the law of the land very seriously. Okay, that's our Beis Din's orientation. That we take the law of the land seriously, but to find the balance between when to say law of the land and when to say what the Torah says, and when to use a little bit of each. That's what we try to do, and we think can be done. And as time goes on, more and more people are coming, and hopefully, even if they don't think we're right. One of our dayanim said that he gave a shiur somewhere, and it turned out there was somebody in the audience who had been a litigant. The person got up and said, "You should know, I went to their Beis Din and I lost. And when I first thought I was sure I was right and I was sure they were wrong, I read what they had to say and I realized I was wrong." So that's optimal. Sometimes people cannot bring themselves to say they're wrong, but we try at least to do service to show that the Torah is applicable, and that the people who learn Torah should be the most honest that one can be, and hopefully have the siyata d'shmaya to come to a true judgment. Okay, I left the farm and worked on one from a few years ago. The newest one over here. If anybody's interested, you can see I've got my emails in there. You can, as I'm running out, if somebody wants to buy, but 40 shekel. This is introduction to English, a glimpse of greatness, a look at the way that Lumbus, halachic analysis, works through the eyes of 4 of the great Achronim in the 17th and 19th century. If somebody's interested, fine. If not, very nice day to meet you in the Torah setting. A lot of aslacha to you guys, to the yeshiva.